I'm doing this call from the new annex today. Check out the Wi-Fi over here.
Oh, Lord.
Nice. I see you guys haven't put up any artwork yet.
No, we've been busy over here, Harry.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So, Jordan, of course, is recording from Rikers Island.
Back in the jail.
Back in the jail cell. I see they gave you a window this time. That's nice.
Yeah. Just kind of drift off out there for a little bit.
Yeah.
What'd you do, Jordan? What's the crime?
Just crypto.
Just crypto,
More
standard
crypto.
stuff.
Yeah.
God, Jordan, just keep your nose out of the crypto. How many times do I have to tell you? Sam Bankman-Fried proved that it just isn't a winning game.
Yeah. I did a little rug pull on everyone.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to BeerNet Radio, the Wednesday warehouse segment where we go over the week's news. We have our beer editors, Jen Litz Kirk and Jordan Driggers here. And wow, lots, these companies, they love to step on each other when they're announcing their fourth quarter earnings and year-end results, don't they? Just all comes at once. And so we had AB and Boston Beer releasing their earnings. And let's talk about AB first. Really surprising win all around, right?
Yeah, I mean, both Boston and AB reported earnings midweek, like you said, and both did better than I think we expected. AB saw depletions up. You heard that right, 0.5%. Shipments were down, 1.7%, obviously on really easy comps because we were still dealing with Mulvaney last year.
And should point out that that implies a reduction of inventory in the trade.
Mm-hmm.
If they're shipping less than they're depleting, which is, I would think it was good. I would think that's good. Get some, just because I think both Molson Coors and AB have been really, and Constellation have been really loading up distributors. AB and Miller because of their strikes, and then Constellation because of the possible tariffs. So distributors have been complaining about this for well over a year, 2 years, really. So it's nice to see a little bit of relief, and that just the spread of shipments and depletions, it takes millions and millions of dollars off of distributors having stored up in inventory. So just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, and the other good thing is that it was Michelob Ultra and Busch Light basically that are helping drive their good trends. Top two volume share gainers in the industry, they said a bunch of times, and they gained their mainstream beer portfolio improved throughout the year. The other thing to talk about is almost half of their revenues are in above core now at 45%. And now we're at a point where basically all of Spirit's growth is due to RTDs. And of course, AB has top positions in that with neutral and Cutwater, which were up, in the teens last year. So, Jay, I'm sure you have stuff to add, but, much better than we're used to seeing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I went back and looked, and it was 17 quarters since the last time they grew depletions, back in COVID. Mm-hmm. So quite a while. And they kept talking about our portfolio has reached an inflection point. I think, it's not it's not how they wanted it to happen with the whole Bud Light fiasco, but their portfolio is in much better shape. Not because of that, but because of where things stand now. Bud Light, is kind of back to a base within reason, and Michelob Ultra is, on top and still flying, and Busch Light probably going to pass Budweiser pretty soon to be their third biggest brand. And it just seems like everything is kind of slimmer and a little more slick to grow in this environment.
Trevor Sterling, I saw at Bernstein, said this morning, with his marbles in his mouth, of course.
Harry.
It seems like 2024 was a reset, yeah. And so I love Trevor. I'm not making fun of him. I'm just teasing him a little bit. But yeah, 24 is a reset year. They're kind of sitting at their new base now. And let's face it, they do have a good portfolio for a big brewer. I mean, it's starting to rival Constellation because they have that neutral and Cutwater is just a booming category. They lost Ghost, but they're going to come out with Form, and I'm not even convinced they made money on Ghost anyway. And then Michelob Ultra and Busch Light. So it's not all in one segment. Like Constellation kind of has that where they're Mexican imports, and that's what they do. Whereas AB's growth is more broad based, and they were able to increase EBITDA by I think 8%. So got to give props where props are due. Let Michelle take a victory lap.
Yeah.
But now comps are regular now. You gotta earn it.
They've got one more with Q1.
Easy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one more easy, and then it's back to normal, or kind of normal.
Back to slogging. Yeah.
So I mean, AB had easier comps in the beginning of this year, while Molson Coors has had, and Constellation, harder comps. And then in the back half of the year, it'll swap. And presumably, maybe we'll see depletion growth out of Molson Coors in the third quarter. Could happen.
It could happen. It'll be interesting. And, Michelle did say there would be a lot of noise in Q1 because of, lapping the inventory from last year and the timing of Easter and all that stuff. So,
leap year.
Yeah, right. Good old leap year. He's like, by summer, we should know how the year's shaping up. I'm like, well, no shit, sure. I mean, yeah.
Captain Obvious.
But
is 25 a leap year? I wasn't aware of that.
No, 24 was.
Oh,
so we have one less trading day this Q1.
Oh, I didn't. I must have been in a fog. I did not realize we had an extra day last year in February. Cool. Tight.
Yeah, I always confuse that too. All right, well, shall we move along to Boston Beer?
Yeah.
So they also did well, better than people had expected, pulled out flat depletions for the quarter again, which hasn't happened since I think the downturn, like around the downturn of seltzer, which was like 2021. And maybe they got like one flat in there, but good surprise. Shipments basically flat too, and flat depletion trends have continued in their year-to-date trend. Full year was a little bit worse. Shipments down about 2% and depletions about 2% on the back, of course, of Twisted and Sun Cruiser, offset by Truly. It was interesting because they offered guidance for the first time for 2025. And of course, depletions down a low single digit to up a low single digit, but also up to 50 million extra on advertising, promo, and selling expenses. What shocked me was when I looked at the numbers, this company spent $552 million last year on ad, promo, selling expenses. That's huge for a company of their size. I was like, whoa, $500 million. Good for you, Boston.
I mean, is it good? I mean, yeah, that's a.
Well,
I mean,
if it's working, per barrel, it's good, right? But
it's got to be per barrel more than anybody else.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's crazy. But, so they're advertising even more because they think they have unrealized potential in their brands, obviously. And Jim talked about, stepped up approach, especially in the first quarter. But he also said if they don't think they're getting a payback from it, then they'll stop running the ads. Majority of their spend will be social digital, but of course they do have TV commercials too. Again, emphasis on brands like Sun Cruiser. And they are spending behind Truly. They haven't given up on it yet. The Truly Unruly higher ABV seltzer, they're going to have ads for that. And they say that is the number one growth driver among high ABV brands in the U.S. beer market. Other big points on the call was Twisted Tea now projecting only single-digit volume growth in the coming year, just of how developed the brand is. Of course, that's their biggest brand family, of course. And then the other one thing I'd highlight is on the call, of course, they were asked about D9. And CEO Michael Spillane, who I heard, I don't know about you, Jay, but I've never heard Michael Spillane speak so much on a Boston earnings call. They finally put him out into the open. No. But he said, he basically said, we have Teapot in Canada. And, if there was a time where we thought that it would be a profitable business in the U.S., we would have a brand, not specifying specifically whether that would be Teapot, but that sort of rhetoric getting a little bit closer to a potential yes versus what we've heard in years past, but still very caveated.
I feel like almost every company has a D9 waiting in the wings. They're just waiting to see who goes first besides, Tilray, another public company. But yeah, it was interesting to hear him say that, especially like you pointed out, Jen, because the past earnings calls, it's been like get in, get out with every question on the Q&A. And so he kind of expanded a little bit, and I wasn't sure if he was supposed to say that or not.
Right. Damn it, Michael.
Yeah, we may see him going back to getting in and getting out on a Q&A again. So,
no, I mean, it was what he said on D9. I think it was pretty benign. Like you said, everybody's kind of playing. Here's my take on D9. You know, you've got the Minnesota and Tennessee. These guys aren't going to do anything until California, Texas, Florida, and maybe Illinois. Once you get those states nailed down where it's legal, not in dispensaries, but in actual, liquor stores or even C-stores, they're not going to come in. It's not worth the scale. You're not going to get scale unless you have those states. So, and that very well could happen. California went in reverse. So that was, if you believe the press, it's that Governor Newsom has ties with the legal weed market there. And so he was politically motivated to take D9 off the shelves. Texas is still looking at it. There's been promises they're going to do it, but nothing's happened quite yet. And then I don't know what's going on in Florida, but I forget where it stands in Florida. But
well, I think it's still okay for now, but yeah, it's sort of embattled in Florida. But in Texas, they just, as they had promised, like last week, filed the bill to DQ D9. Yeah. You can have like CBD and CBG, but absolutely no D9. And they're like, you can keep all your many licenses. You just can't sell D9. You can sell CBD. Yeah, thanks.
It'd be like coming in and saying, you can sell beer. It just has to be no alcohol beer.
Right, exactly. Yeah, all you retailers can stay open, sure.
Yeah, you have Athletic and Guinness 0.0.
I think we've talked about this before, but being a first mover in cannabis hasn't really bared any fruit for anyone yet. So, ask Constellation.
No, it's still very regional, and there's no branding. When you go to Total Wine, people who have been in it a long time, like Can, they have just as much space as the local wacko, with a sticker on the can instead of a label that's, from Waco. So
that's a brand.
It's a brand,
Wacko from Waco.
And so people just don't know the brands yet. So they're just looking at the can going, well, this is 5 milligrams. This is 10. I'll do 8, and, cut the middle. So anyway. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've said this before, but my opinion is like, if it weren't in these channels at retail, then it doesn't have a reason for being, because we know that these drinks die in dispensaries. So if you can't sell them at real retail, that is the whole proposition, right? Like,
and Jim made that clear, I think, didn't he? He said something to that effect on the call.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And that's true. I mean, that's absolutely true. The D9 guys would say no, but what are they lobbying for? So, yeah.
Okay. And then, big surprise. The news came out literally minutes after we recorded last week's podcast, so that's why it didn't make it in. But, we had already been hearing a little bit of chatter that Alani Nu was in play. Of course, Alani Nu's, it's really been in play since 2023. I mean, they shopped it with JP Morgan, if you believe Reuters, which I do, at a $3 billion valuation. That was when the brand was a lot smaller. They were hoping for a bigger payday, I think. But, like we wrote in Monday's issue, Congo Brands and the original co-founders of Alani Nu were all motivated to make a sale. Congo needed to buy the original founders out, according to an arbitration that they lost. And then plus they've had all these issues with Prime. And, they owe distributors on inventory and invasion fees, and, a big cash event like this, well, it's cash in stock. A big event like this certainly will give them a little breathing room. What it means for distributors, we don't know yet. I thought, very conspicuously, distribution was left out of the announcement. And even when the Celsius CEO was pressed on it, he demurred. So, mostly AB distributors that carry Alani Nu are still wondering what's going to happen with that brand. And the fact that it wasn't included in the release tells me that they probably just haven't worked that part of the deal out yet. So it still doesn't mean that it won't end up in the Pepsi system, since Pepsi does own a stake in Celsius. Plus they have a master distribution agreement with them. But, I know that Celsius, there's been chatter that they're not real happy with Pepsi in some ways. They're, hard to get inventory, chain, all the, whatever. Suppliers are never happy with distributors, but that I could see why they might want to use this Alani thing as leverage against Pepsi to get just better focus from them on these two brands, Celsius and Alani Nu. Celsius, their stock's been in the tank because they quit growing, and they really needed to do something. So that's their motivation. And they claim that Alani Nu is incremental to their business because it's mostly women who drink it. Although I drink it, I really like Alani Nu actually. But now it's been rug pulled. So now, where am I going to? Now I'm on ZOA. That's the only one I got left. And then, when Molson Coors upped their stake in ZOA to over 51%, I just kind of assumed that meant they had control over the company, and that would prevent another rug pull. But really, if you look at the language in their 10K, they have until 2027, and the minority shareholders at that point have the option of pulling Molson Coors with them to sell the whole thing to a third party. So it could very well be rug pulled. Now, having said that, I don't know, the only way it would hurt distributors, Molson Coors distributors, is if they sold it to Coke, Pepsi, or Dr. Pepper that have their own bottling network that would want to take it over. If it's sold to like private equity or somebody else, they'd probably keep the brands because they need the distribution network. So it might not necessarily, even if it is sold to a third party, if it's not sold those big three, it's probably not such a big deal. Also, I would imagine that if the brand is continuing to grow, that Molson Coors will make the investment to buy out those other shareholders, because it's not just The Rock; it's other people in there as well. So I think there's a low risk of ZOA getting pulled from Molson Coors distributors at this point, but it could happen. Honestly, I don't know that Coke, Pepsi, or Dr. Pepper have an appetite for any more energy brands. Especially Dr. Pepper has a lot, and now so does Pepsi, and then Coke has their interest in. Maybe Coke might be interested because Monster's kind of got Coke by the balls, and it might be a way for Coke to have a cudgel against Monster because Rockstar didn't do anything and these others aren't doing anything. So it's a messy field. I love it. It's energy drinks are the wild teenagers of the industry, right? If beer, wine, and spirits are the older uncles, aunts, and uncles, these kids are still wild and unruly, and it's there's just a lot of messy action amongst that cohort of brands.
Yeah, they're almost like the new craft, right? They're proliferating like left and right. They're pissing off distributors. It's like craft was, it's the only thing that's growing. Even though it's hitting harder growth trends, but still growing.
Yeah. And to that point, Jen, too, we're seeing energy on energy deals like we see in craft. Mm-hmm. And I do think that some of it is incremental. I mean, think about how many flavors these brands have, and you never really hear a whole lot about cannibalization just because with an energy drink, you're fine drinking something different every day, Yeah. They all taste about the same. They all kind of have like a sweet, fruity flavor. So right. It's fine to switch it up every day.
Yeah. And then, of course, we can't leave this energy conversation without talking about Jack is back. Guess who's back? Back again. Jack is back.
Jack is back. Call a friend. I love Jack Owoc. Nobody's going to get me saying anything bad about Jack Owoc. I'm glad he's back in it. He's got AI energy. He got Redwood on board, and I know that what he's done is he's sent out 6-packs to basically every AB distributor that he had before with Bang, and on the can it says, "Hey," it's a personal message from Jack. And it says, "We've done this before. We've built a brand before, and we can do it again. And we have proprietary."
Take me back, baby.
Yeah, take me back, baby. And a couple of distributors I've talked to are like, he did it before, so maybe we can do it again. And honestly, is there any chance of that brand ever getting rug pulled?
No.
No.
Well, I don't know, man. John Fieldley with Celsius is kind of a crazy guy. I can see him springing for it if AI actually does well. So yeah, like you said, they signed this week with Redwood, with Silver Eagle, in Texas, or sorry, in Houston, we have to specify.
Yes.
In Florida with Pepin, and Ohio with Heidelberg. And Kentucky, I guess. But I think you kind of mentioned this for a second, Harry. So I found out something I didn't know. So in that release, Jack says that the company has struck a partnership with Kiowa, Kyowa, to include this thing called Cognizin, which is going to come in the upcoming AI drink formulations, promises to further enhance AI Energy's nootropic benefits, supporting mental clarity, focus, and cognitive performance. Obviously, that sounds a little bit like super creatine, but that's not my point. My point is I looked at Kiowa, and that is part of Kirin Holdings. So that's an interesting wrinkle. This little whatever partnership for this ingredient.
Ooh.
That's a Kirin company.
Wow.
Offshoot.
Well, let's go down that road. Let's say that AI Energy becomes a big hit like Bang, and Kirin comes in and buys it. Isn't Kirin already sold mostly by AB distributors?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because Kirin used to be brewed at AB's brewery in LA.
Correct. And now New Belgium's taking that over. But it was AB.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, New Belgium, right? I was forgetting.
And New Belgium has a mix, right? Like they're with Molson Coors and AB wholesalers.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, you mentioned that Celsius. Are they Jack Owoc crazy? Because I mean, all you have to do is go back and look at what happened when Pepsi made that deal with Jack. And I just can't. I don't even know if the Japanese. Can you imagine the Japanese trying to deal with they're so kind and gentle,
Jesus.
It's a cultural thing, and I think it's admirable.
It's okay.
Anyway,
I am excited to see Jack back out and see what his new getup is, because like when he was with Bang, he had like the big flamboyant bedazzled suits and the chain, and now like with AI, I want to see like if he's like wearing like looking a little animatronic and really embracing the robot role.
Right, with the headphones that go I think it's great. Let's see what happens. The can is just it gives you kind of an epileptic fit when you look at it. Don't look at it too closely.
Have you
no,
had it?
I
Because you
haven't.
can order it on Amazon. So I'm thinking of
I definitely will, because I loved Bang. When it was sold by beer distributors, that was kind of my go-to. And now,
now it's Form and Zoa.
Yeah. Now it's just Zoa. So, all right. And then lastly, we had the CEO of RNDC left, or he's going to leave in the next few days, just days after Brown-Forman announced that it is switching from RNDC to Reyes in California, just exactly a month after Tito's announced that it was leaving RNDC for Reyes in California. And, other brands have left, Trinchero, Atomic Brands, Happy Dad. So it's been a rough 12 months for RNDC. They've had some layoffs. The rank and file didn't seem to care much for that CEO, if you believe the Reddit posts on their unofficial Reddit page that are, like Jordan said, they're unconfirmed, so we haven't reported on them. But there's enough details to show that it's very contentious over there, and it's just been a rough time. I'm sorry, my plumber is at the door.
That's funny. It's like plumber week. I had the plumber here yesterday. Well, Jay, we've talked about this, but the biggest thing to me is that, going back to Brown-Forman, saying that they're going to go with Reyes now in California. They basically, to me, it looks like in the press release, they put RNDC on notice because they're with them in 23 other markets, but they said the move reflects their ongoing commitment to evolving distribution network to ensure long-term success in the U.S. And then, people are scared, like, oh my God, all these brands are moving to Reyes in California from big wine and spirits wholesalers. I mean, basically RNDC to beer wholesalers. But I think we should emphasize that this is California, which is its own animal. You can sell beer and spirits in the same outlets, which really matters for going to a primarily beer distributor versus a wine and spirits distributor. And then, we saw moves in New Jersey too, with High Noon away from Gallo to that set of Molson Coors wholesalers that also have now made a spirits network, and same with Bardstown. But again, in New Jersey, I think you have to sell both in liquor stores. You have to sell beer and spirits in liquor stores. So like, makes a lot more sense in those kinds of markets versus everywhere else. But, I do know that a lot of suppliers are annoyed with what they think is relatively lower service levels from the wine and spirits wholesalers versus the beer wholesalers. And the beer wholesalers are hungry for these products. So I'm sure we will see more of this, but predominantly, I think first in those markets where you're selling everything in the same channels versus channel restrictive states.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah. And Reyes has a full footprint in California. It kind of makes you wonder, here in Texas, it's
statewide,
right? pretty centralized for what they have here in Texas. So kind of wonder if they'll make more deals here to get a statewide footprint to try and bring some of the wins they've had in California.
All right. Well, anything else?
Harry, you're going to kill me.
What?
We're not recording.
Why?
I'm just kidding. I wanted you to have a bigger reaction than that.
God.
That was lame. That was lame.
Well, I was like, it starts recording automatically. The only way it could not be recording is if you stopped it, which I could see you doing.
Why?
Because you like to push buttons, Jen. You're just pushing buttons everywhere, not knowing what they do.
Beep, boop, beep, boop, boop.
Beep, boop,
that
boop,
was
beep.
Underwhelming. Damn it. I wanted you to just explode.
No, this is the new chill Harry.
If you want Harry to explode, let me see if I can get my internet to slow down.
No, trust me, it's already slow. You're breaking up bad, but that's all right. My plumber promises that I'll have use of my toilets by the end of the day. It's been 6 weeks. So.
Oh, jeez. Where have you, are you going in a hole outside? Like what?
No.
Where have you been going?
There's the country club across the street.
Club. Right,
and I am a member. So that, the unintended benefit of all of this is that I've reconnected with some old friends over at the country club. So I go over there at least twice a day. So that's good news. So from a practical standpoint, how that relates to BeerNet Radio is that starting next week, or at least y'all will be at Constellation next week. But the week after, Jordan, we'll bring you back in the studio. We'll have the camera set up. We'll have a toilet that works and air conditioning, the whole works. Nothing but the best for you, Jordan.
I'm looking forward to it. It's a little tough having a wife on maternity leave with a little baby here at the house and trying to go from room to room. Where are you going? Oh, do you mind holding them real quick? I'm like, oh.
Where are you going? Don't leave me.
I have a job.
Just in the other room.
All right. Well, listen, have a good weekend, folks. And we got a special guest next week on BeerNet Radio. We'll leave it as a surprise, just in case it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But until then, have a good weekend and happy selling.
Cheers.